excited to share interesting stories related to life as a flutist and discovering inspiring content in form of a podcast. You can catch up with us on Instagram at theflutespace, and you can listen to our episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, and YouTube. All these links can be found in our link tree in the description.
Hello and welcome to the first episode of the second season, Mia. Can you believe it?
No, actually, I can't. I mean, we're back and it's exciting.
It's super exciting. I mean, we're talking to so interesting guests.
Yeah, a lot of really nice things are coming up for us in the second season. We're gonna have such nice conversations. Starting with this episode with Mario Caroli.
And we had a really inspiring talk with him. It was so interesting to have kind of an insight in, well, his way of thinking and his way of teaching, and I think it's super worth to listen to it. He really shows you that there's not a typical path that you have to follow or typical things that you have to have in your CV in order to reach something and to achieve something. And that was super exciting, as are other things that are very exciting that we will introduce in our second season.
Yeah, like Patreon, which we hinted on in the first season, but now it's a reality. It will happen. It's a platform where we will share special exclusive content and extra episodes with our guests.
Yes, I'm super excited about that. But that's not the only thing. We will also start to share a newsletter every month where you can subscribe to. It's free. And
with that, you can also subscribe through our link tree, which is in all our descriptions.
Welcome to our episode. We're super happy to have you here. We're talking to Mario Caroli. And it's an honor for us to talk to you.
Because I think we and also the audience, we have been to your concerts, we have listened to your recordings, you're quite well known, and it's really an exciting thing to have you here.
Yes, definitely. It's a pleasure. To start off, we wanted to ask you about your own flute studies, if you could tell us something about it.
It started when I was almost 14 years old, because I was in the middle school, and there was no plan to study music for me, because in the family we don't have musicians, and so my plans were not so clear, but not in the direction of the music. But in the school, I had a teacher of music, of course, who was very much in love with his talent, or the fact that I could play very well the recorder. Yeah, I had a certain virtuosity, which was natural, because of course I didn't took really lesson with him. I was in the school and was just sing some music, and yes. So he was telling my parents he should go to the conservatory. You should try to let him study music. And my parents, they really didn't agree, because they thought was a sort of a strange idea. Also because I am the last brother of 5. So everyone had a very precise path in the studies, and I shouldn't make any exception. So my mother said, well, maybe you can say him that you can maybe take private lessons of piano, because we had and we still have a piano at home. My sister did a little bit, and also my oldest brother. And for me I agree, because I didn't feel any necessity to study music. And I said to him, well, my parents don't really agree, but maybe I can undertake a piano lesson. And he really didn't accept this, and said, I have to speak with your parents. And so he met my parents, and he said, no, you have to understand that this is talented, and if you don't send him to the school, it's like not to send Giotto to an art school. This was like, my goodness, it's a little bit too much, but And then he organized, without saying anything to my parents, which was actually very, I think that nowadays no one would do, because I was just 13 years old. So he said to my parents, I will bring him to house because I want to give him some lesson, something like that. But in fact, he arranged a lesson at the conservatory. So in fact, after the school, he brought me to his house just to eat something. And then he brought me to the conservatory. He asked me before which instrument you would play. And I actually gave two options. Once was the guitar. My goodness. If I think today, it's well, I like the guitar, but I don't see myself as a guitarist. And the other was the flute, because I played the recorder, so I thought was maybe better to play the flute. And so he said, no, guitar, there are too many people who want to play the guitar. So he arranged a meeting with the flute teacher in the concert, one of the two flute teachers in the concert, in the closest conservatoire to my city. And so I met her, and I played for her something in the recorder, which was the Mozart G minor, the symphony like that. And then I played Michelle of the Beatles. And this was my presentation, and she then gave me a lesson. I mean, she took the head joint, and she tried to teach me how to produce a sound. Was a total fiasco because I couldn't produce any sound. But it's true that I immediately, really, I have a very clear memory of this. I felt immediately connected. There was something very, even if it was a fiasco, because I really couldn't do anything, but there was something which immediately was unblocked. Yes. So and she said to my professor that she was willing to prepare me to the entrance examination for free. If I wanted, I could go once per week, maybe 30 minutes, and she would have prepared me for the entrance exam, maybe because she liked how I played Michelle of the Beatles. And so we went back to home, and my teacher spoke with my parents. He said that he brought me to the conservatory, and that there was something which sort of happened, because also the teacher wanted to prepare myself. So then they said, okay, and I said, yes, I want, because I like blah blah blah. And so my parents said, okay, you can do that as long as you do everything as was planned. So you have to go to school, to high school. In Italy, we have, you can choose your school in relationship to the specialization of the school. So every brother did the, let's say, how can I say, it's called classical. It's the old languages school. So we study Italian, Greek, and Latin mainly, and other things, but mainly is this. So and then university. This was out of question, that I couldn't escape to this. And what I did actually, then there was a parallel period of studies of conservatory and high school. And then actually I finished the conservatory before the system was completely different in Italy, and even in Europe, of course. And actually what we had in Italy was just the conservatorium. No? So you start and you finish. You start like beginner and you finish like super soloist. I was like that. And so it was short, it was 5 years. I started and I finished in these 5 years. And so I did a high school, and then I went to the university to study philosophy, which I did until the doctorate, actually, because this was the plan. And so finally in my life, I think I studied more philosophy than the flute, or at least I studied more seriously the philosophy than the flute, because not that I was not serious with the flute, but I had a very different path of everyone else, and this is a message that maybe I want to give. I mean, my path of study should have been a fiasco for my professional life, because I didn't integrate any school. I didn't went to study in Paris, in Antwerp, in Freiburg. Nowhere. I was at home. I studied philosophy. And I undertook lesson with a teacher in Italy, in Bologna, but was once a month. So it was like 6 lessons a year for 4 years. I did this, which was I got a sort of perfectionnement diploma, but it was private, of course. And I was listening very, very, very much to an Austrian flutist called Manuela Wiesler, who for me was the flutist. I am a little bit extreme like character. When I like something, it's just this. And so for me, there was nothing else apart of Manuela, which I afterward met and we became friends, etc. But I didn't follow any path very structured, like going a big school, doing a lot of Probespiel, doing competition. I was absolutely not interested in anything of this. I even didn't meet, even masterclass. I didn't went anywhere. I never went to Geneva. I never went to Munich. I never went to Kobe. Nothing. So if I see now in perspective, if today as a teacher, I would say to someone having my path, if you don't do something, you will just fail your life, because you don't have anything and you don't you don't do anything actually. But maybe it's pretentious from my side to say this, but I felt that I would succeed somehow. I was convinced, but it's not like a pretentious conviction. I felt it was something really. In German, it's called a Wahrnehmung. It's like a perception. I had this perception that I would be a flutist somehow. And it happened because then I started playing, and so many things happened. But yes, was a strange path, very, very unusual. And when I saw of everything was done by my friends. Well, at that time they were not friends, like Davide Formisa and all these people of my age who were everywhere and winning big competition. I felt smaller and smaller, but somehow I just thought, everyone follows his or her path, and I saw myself as a musician in the life. So I was sure that in somehow it would have worked out.
Would you say that this belief that you had in yourself and this kind of feeling that this
Was not at all a belief that I had in myself, because I was full of doubts. And if I never went to this competition or to this, was not because I thought I don't need this, but because I thought I can't do this. I was still today I am someone who always asks myself if I'm doing well, if it's enough what I do, if and when I was 19, 20 years old, I was very fragile, maybe because my path was so different from the other, that I didn't feel like entitled to do something, because I come from nowhere. Yes, I don't have this big school in my CV, and so maybe I am a little bit out from all this.
And how did you then kind of develop from there, or meet these doubts, or start kind of connecting with the flute world more in that way? Like, how would you say that you came to the position where you are now?
First thing, I didn't connect with the flute world for many years. I wanted to stay a part of this because I couldn't identify myself with this word. It was not something which could coincide with my sensibility and way to conceive the flute. But there was a moment in which something switched really in the direction of the, let's say, the flute or the music world. And well, when I was studying with this, let's say, my second teacher, which is actually my only teacher, because in the conservatory, yes, was more for the starting that. But Anna Maria Morini, and she was introducing me to the contemporary music, because she was known in Italy for two things. As a flutist, she was known for playing contemporary music, for being an interpreter of contemporary music, and as a teacher, she was very known in Italy to be a very good technique teacher. So was good for the person who wanted really to work on the bass, and it was also my case. And
That's such a good combination.
yes,
Of,
yes, because actually my the reason why I went to study with her was this, because I felt that I had a total lack of knowledge of contemporary music. So every time I saw that there was something contemporary to play, I was like, what I do? And the second thing was that I knew that I needed someone that could help me in getting stronger my bass, my sound, my technique. So I went to study with her. And with her, it's true that I developed very much and very quickly a real interest for the contemporary music. And I decided to went this year was in 1996 in Darmstadt, in this city in Germany, not far from Frankfurt, where take place this actually is masterclass for contemporary music, but it's a masterclass which is historical, because in the 60s, in the 70s, really it was the core of the musical contemporary music creation in Europe. And so I took part to this masterclass, and I got a prize at the end of the masterclass. It's called the Kranich-Steiner Musikpreis, and this prize is very important in the world of contemporary music. So I got invited to Japan to go to a contemporary music festival, and many. Then it became like a domino effect, and then you go to Japan and you meet this, that we invite you then in Frankfurt to play, and then in Frankfurt we invite this, invite you to Berlin. And then I started also working with big composers, with Sharinov, with Boulez, with Kurtag, and I was very young because I was 22 years old. So it was like suddenly was like a washing machine, going faster and faster and faster. And I thought it was beautiful because I really loved this music. And if you want, psychologically speaking, it allowed me to put a screen on my doubts and on my fears, because I didn't present Gobert, for which I was too afraid of being compared. I present pieces that no one played, so you couldn't compare myself with. And even later on, when I started then taking part to the flute festivals, these kind of things, I only presented contemporary music because I felt protected and not too exposed. It was a very slow process. Then I felt more and more comfortable with my playing, and I started gradually to maybe play Jolivet instead of Ferneyhough, and then maybe I can play Andersen. And
But that also makes sense because you found your niche, you found your way, because it seems that you were always interested in also philosophy. Like it's something that is very personal and close to you, and then it's a perfect way of kind of finding a way for yourself.
And feeling comfortable on the stage also, and then from
Yes.
there kind
Because
of
not being part of the flute world, let's say, like I mean, no one has to be, a set musician with like what is the normal for
Yeah,
for a path?
absolutely. Absolutely. There is not normal paths. There are paths which are more or less standard. And right yesterday, I was speaking with two former students about this. I mean, it's true that for a flutist, the first and easier, even if it's not easy, but step after the study, a step into a professional world is the orchestra, because as a flutist, the solo career is very, I mean, complicated to figure out. Chamber music, yes and not, because you have to found a group, and teaching, if you want to teach a high level, you need experience. You can't start from nothing to teach big students. So the only real and concrete possibility to really jump into professional world is the orchestra. Now, this is another thing that made me a little bit out of the stream, let's say, because I never even imagined that I could get in an orchestra, because this is really a personal thing. I'm not so much a social person, so I can't figure out that every day I go to work and I have 70 people around me with whom, good or bad, you have to interact, because it's a society. And so this was very clear since I was maybe 18 years old, that I would never integrate an orchestra. So I never prepare even a orchestra audition. Yeah, even if now I'm so happy to prepare the student for this, but for me, I was not my this I was sure that was not my path. So it's true that there is not one path for everyone. I was lucky enough that the fact to play contemporary music at this time was something that I didn't force at all myself to play this music. And it's true that playing contemporary music is not an alternative if you don't love this music, because if you don't love, it's just too difficult, it's too abstract, it's too ugly, even, because when you are really into the contemporary world, you play every year maybe one piece which is nice, the rest is just something that you will play and you will never play anymore. But it's part of your mission. You have to do this, because the composer, they try to do something, they need someone to play, so you are willing to do that. But you know that you are maybe preparing a piece which is awful, or you know that you are preparing a piece which has no future at all, you prepare anyway. So you have to love this kind of mission, let's say. And at this time, underline, I loved. Now I don't love anymore, but you remain stigmatized, that, like, still today, sometimes it happens to me that people ask, do you teach normal repertoire? I mean, really, sometimes I jump on my what I mean. Of course, I teach normal repertoire. I mean, even I feel maybe guilty.
Imagine.
Can you play beautiful music?
Yes, can you play a long note, or and sometimes I feel even guilty, because I think that my student play too few contemporary music, really, almost nothing. And yes, so it's a sort of stigmatization, but people need this, it's really needs to know, this is nowadays. It's so common to speak about gender fluid. No, people need this. They need to know what you are, what you do. When you play in the orchestra, you will never be a soloist, because you play in the orchestra. If you play contemporary music, you play. I mean,
Yeah, and I feel like also with do you play contemporary music? Do you play baroque music?
Yeah.
Yeah, you have
Like
to
if
have
you're
a
doing
label.
early music, that's your thing. You cannot do.
But
Yeah.
also maybe I think now more people are doing are
Multiple.
incorporating contemporary music, which is really good to see.
yes.
And also I think maybe it's too early in the history to kind of see, or in the timeline of these extended techniques and stuff, to solidify that no, it's all comes under classical music, or however we want to say it.
It's there is music, there is good and bad music. Maybe there was even someone who said that even doesn't exist bad and good music, there is just the music. And but it is this sort of compartments which are separated are done in the musical world, because classical musicians often they really cannot conceive anything else after Debussy, and the musicians which are into the contemporary world, so the composer or some interpreted really radical, they don't conceive that you can play Schubert even, so they think that there's even maybe 2 weeks ago I was in Japan, and in a festival which is a music festival which is small part for contemporary music. So in general I go every year, so I play in both situations. I play classical thing, Mozart quartet, and then maybe a new piece. And in the opening concert, everyone plays some small piece. I play the aria from Doc Nanji, which is a piece. It's like Strauss. It's a beautiful piece. And then there was a composer who came afterward and said to me, it's so weird to listen to a contemporary flutist playing normal stuff, no? And I said, I am not a I'm not a contemporary music. I'm it's very strange, because it's really very strong, this separation, and people don't like to mix, or they have difficulties in imagine that these things can live together. And
And
yes,
also that a musician can be also other things. I mean, a
And
musician is an
versatile,
artist.
yeah.
It's versatile. It's quite common to come across someone that can't really see a broader picture. It's just what they're focused on, and sometimes that's necessary. But it's difficult then to continue this what music is. And
especially when you play the flute, we can't really complain about our repertoire because it's not so small, but of course it's comparatively small if you of course compare with the violin, with the piano. And so if you have an intense activity as I have had, and still today have, I mean, you can saturate very quickly your repertoire. And sometimes when you have been playing, I don't know, 150 times Trockene Blumen, you maybe want to explore other things. It can be not necessarily contemporary music, it can be transcription, it can be maybe minor composer. In these years I am very much into Andersen, who wrote really beautiful music for flute. But it can be also to explore some contemporary stuff, because when you are a pianist, you can spend a life on Schubert, or you can spend your life on Chopin, or you can spend your life on Scriabin. I don't know. With the flute is not possible. And I must say also that the flutists in general are very few curious and very ignorant, I must say, because even in the repertoire most of people know so few. Even Jolivet, if you put away the chant de Linos and maybe the concerto and l'incantation, I met students and even colleagues that never heard about Assez, that never played, that never heard. I mean, even in the, let's say, more or less standard repertoire, when you focus your life by playing Carmen variation, I think it's a little bit pity, because,
Yeah, we wanted to ask, like, if you compare, like, how you were taught, how is it different than the way you were teaching your students now?
It's very different, because I am old enough to belong to, not of course of another generation, but really of another lifestyle. Yeah, when I was your age, now seems like the old man, the grandfather speaking. Yes, but it's true that in between us, with me and you, there was the revolution of internet, which really changed everything. So it's not it's maybe super big difference of age. We don't have 40 age of difference, but it's in between some happened something so important and so life changing that really it's very different. I mean, the thing I really noticed, the biggest difference I noticed today is the relationship with the time that the young people of my age had compared with people of your age today. I mean, today it's very, I mean, everything is easy, everything it goes fast. You see, today we can do a meeting. You are in Belgium, I am in France. You got me a link 10 minutes ago, and then we are. In my time to do this, would it be a mess? You would even do by telephone, and was ultra expensive because you spend the time that you use, or we had to fix a meeting somewhere and doing. I even when I started my career when I was maybe 27 years old, 20, I had to send my picture by post to the festival. So it was a big. You need a lot of time because you have to go. You always needed to have picture at home, put in a ship net to send. So it was everything more complicated. To come back to your question, I think that we had a more wide perception of the time. So when my teacher said me, you have to work on your sound or on your sonority or this, we already thought that, okay, I have to spend maybe 8 months or maybe 9 months in order to start having a result. What I noticed today is that if the things don't work more or less immediately, people think that it's wrong because it doesn't work. But it's not your fault, it's that we are used to click and send. And when someone doesn't reply your message after 5 minutes, you get hysterical because why doesn't know, or why she doesn't answer, and she reads or he reads a message, why I mean, everything is so fulgurant, it's so quick today that I have to make an effort with almost every one of my students to let them understand, try for a really long period of time, and then we will decide if it's good or if it's wrong, if it works, if it will not work, or maybe we have to change direction. I mean, this is the biggest difference. I have to be more, I have to teach the student to be more patient, because even if the world around us changed completely in relationship to this the perception of time, because we think that everything goes fast, practice and studying an instrument is the same thing like in the 18th century. Nothing changed. It's slow, you need time, you have to lock in your room and to practice for hours every day like in the 19th century. I mean, for this nothing changed. That's why I sometimes feel a little bit strange when we speak a lot about flute pedagogy. Well, I say flute pedagogy because we are flutists. No, flute pedagogy and pedagogy of this and pedagogy of that. I don't think there is a really specific pedagogy. Maybe for the beginner, yes, but for advanced students like you, there's no special pedagogy apart of practice and practice and practice with method, of course, but for hours and with always a long-term perspective. Nothing will change. Everything you change, if you change your hand position, if you change your embouchure position, if you change your breathing, will take months. And sometimes I have the impression, but it's more than an impression, it's an experience, that students, they are impatient. It's like, no, but this doesn't work. They try, doesn't work. Of course it doesn't work. When you started playing the flute, you didn't play the chandeliers after one week. So everything, even if at my age with my experience, I want to change something in my playing, it will take months because there is a coordination of the muscles. My body has a memory of it was used to do, and then everything it's really, it's very slow. It's a slow process. This is the biggest difference I noticed.
Yeah. And it's really true. I mean, it's something now if we're used to receiving information in a millisecond, and of course, like
That's true. Like the pace of life is just so fast.
Yes, we are not, we are not used to this because really everything is, and it's a good thing. I'm not doing the revolutionary speech that it was better before. It's much better today, even the flight are very cheap today, and before the events of the low cost, believe me, but to go from Rome to Berlin with a plane was so extremely expensive that finally you decide to take a train which needed maybe 18 hours. Everything was more wide, the consistency of the time was much more dilated, was much more like this. And I think that today is much better, but we can't apply these rules for everything. I mean, it's not everything fast. It cannot be, especially when it comes to instrument or to the music.
and studying an instrument and music in general, I feel like it's such a kind of meditation. We are taught to be patient. We are taught to take it slow and to focus. And it is a kind of meditation, actually.
It is, and it brings you out from this vortex of speedness in which we always are, and that makes us a little bit maybe out of the world, sort of, because even if you write a friend which is in Indonesia and he can answer you immediately if you want to meet him, then you need at least one day, and I mean, it's a sort of a virtual reality. In fact, this is not a real reality.
And what would you change from the education today? What do you think should be focused on or improved?
No, I maybe change is a big word. I wouldn't change really things. I think that what is important is really the begin. I mean, all the preparatory phase, because these 10 years that you maybe spend before reaching an university, it's fundamental. And sometimes when you arrive at the age to get a bachelor and maybe your preparation is not strong enough, it can be fatal for your development. And so I really admire people working in the conservatory or in the music school which prepare people, because the future is really in the hand of the, so the preliminary phase, which is very long, the preliminary phase, the preparation of this is fundamental. Then you really prepare your future. When you are in bachelor master, you really get oriented. It's very important to choose the good teacher, is fundamental there. But in order to arrive to this stage, you should really be able to reach the university in the best condition. So prepare the student for everything which is a rhythm, here, intonation, this kind of thing is fundamental. I know that maybe nowadays, because, and I come back to what we were saying just before, maybe today it sounds a little bit old-fashioned to have a very strict discipline on the rhythm and solfege, but it's fundamental. You can't escape these things, because otherwise you will pay all the rest of your life. It's not useful to try to make kids not so under pressure with all this complicated thing, and to have the dictate and to develop the year is fundamental. It's fundamental.
Well, talking about education and all of this, we also asked our audience if they have questions to you.
Yes.
And one person asked, what are you looking for in students that audition to your flute class?
Yeah, these questions come so often, and
Not the first time.
and the disappointing thing is that I know, and at the same time I don't know. I mean, it's not so easy, and it's not so radical. I want this, and if I don't find, um, it's fluid. It's more fluid. I think for sure. I know that I like people who are musically speaking very unique, which have a really nice personality, which play people who play with I don't know. It's, you know, words are so poor. I can't explain, but there are I look for something which touches me. I want to be touched, because when I am on the other side of the table during an entrance examination, for instance, I put myself in the position of the public. I don't want really to judge, because this is a complicated matter, huh, to judge a musician, but I put myself like this, and I say, okay, a part of the technical thing that I will invariably notice, of course, because we are a flutist, so you can't ignore some, but a part of these things, I sit like an audience, and I expect some. I imagine that I paid a ticket, and I want to go there and assist to something. You know, if this thing happens, I am happy. If it doesn't happen, I am not happy, even if the candidate is very strong or very good. But I look for something which somehow talks to me. It's difficult I know when it happens, I recognize. To say in word is difficult, but I'm sure you more or less understand what I mean. And one other thing which is important, I am a very empathic person, and I really connect energetically with people which I have in front, student or just people. No? So I always look for someone who is enjoyable as a person. When someone gives me the impression to not have a nice energy, or to not have energy at all, then I can't.
Yeah, and of course that's subjective. So actually,
But
there's no
Absolutely.
power control.
But it's super important for a teacher and a student to like be able to work together on a personal level, because otherwise, how can it work? I mean,
it doesn't work. It doesn't work on both sides. On side of the teacher, can you imagine when you teach 9 hours per day, and you know that maybe like last lesson come a student which has no energy, which maybe takes out everything, and you are already heavy because you have had already 7 hours of teaching. You know, it's so important for me. It's very important when I look at my schedule today, which student I have, and I say, I'm very happy to be with him. I'm very happy to be with her. It's nice to wait for the student, not to say, oh my goodness, now I have to teach. No, now I have to teach this person, and energetically speaking, of course, because even if someone plays well, like technically, it can be sort of I don't know. So for me, it's important that these two things goes together. We have very nice personality. I mean, overall personality, and musically speaking, something special, something special that will talk to me and will touch me somehow. In general, I trust one thing. At the end of the day, after that I heard, I don't know, 70 people, there are maybe 2 or 3 I remember. They stay in my memory. Yeah, and this is a very good sign. It's something very good, because you can say, if I still remember, this is a very, very good thing, because this means that you received something.
Kind of along the same lines, another audience member asked, what characteristics should a good musician possess?
The same thing. the same thing. I mean, if you go to a concert and you don't get anything, you don't receive anything, it's useless. It's not a bad concert. It's useless. It's something that should not done, because we as our vocation. I mean, our goal is to share beauty, is to share emotion, is to share life experiences, to share this kind of thing. If this doesn't happen, this was useless. A concert like this shouldn't exist.
And one last audience question. We were already talking a bit before about having good basics and like practicing sound and so on. So someone asked, which routine for technique do you recommend and how much time to invest in it?
Nothing, because it's so personal. I never believe in. It's my personal opinion, of course, but I never believed in people when they say you have to do 2 hours a day of technique. You have to do 30 minutes scale, 30 minutes sound, 30 minutes son filet. I don't know, all this kind of thing. This is a lack of. I mean, you just lose your time for nothing, because I don't know, when a student has already a super sound, why should every day working on his sound? I mean, I just make an example. Of course, you can, maybe when you play your repertoire, when you practice your repertoire, you will be always checking your sound in order not to lose, in order to get it better. But if someone has sound, why should it's like if I know a grammar rule and every day I work the same rule. I know the rule. I will just put attention not to make a mistake when I speak, but I know the rule. This is the same thing. So I am a obsessed technique teacher, so I really make my student working the technique a lot, but it's very à la carte. It's very individual, and you need to practice your fingers, you need to practice your intonation, and I in general never practice too much technical side on. It's really one by one when a student needs. So I don't think you need it's. You can't in abstract say you need this time and you need this schema of working. For me, it's very individual, and everyone needs something or more or less, and that's it.
Yes, I think that makes a lot of sense. To not put the same thing just on everyone, because as you say, like everyone has different needs.
Yes, everyone has different needs. There are people who have already some qualities, who are really established. Can be, maybe there are people who arrive at the school, maybe even in bachelor, and they have fingers. They can perfectly control the fingers. So why they have to make torture with complicated exercise to develop the fingers? Why? I mean, it's not necessary. You maybe eat up time for other things. Maybe it's the articulation, or maybe it's nothing. I would wish. But of course, there is always something now you want to. Then what you have also, what is important is a part of the pure technique. I mean, your articulation, your intonation, your fingers, your sound, your resonance. The thing is also if the student can control this parameter while playing, because sometimes there are people who are able to do one thing in a correct way, and somehow by playing, because of the musical parameter to control, because of the emotion, because of many other things, you can lose the control of some. This is something that I also try to work with the student. There is always a part of your brain which has to be always connected with really the material in the control of the material. It can be the sound, can be the intonation, can be everything else, but yes, so it's you see, it's more also, this is much more articulated than so, but it was very much à la mode years ago to say you have to do every day this. But I think it was a way to scare a little bit maybe people, but I don't really you can warm up a little bit your sound. This is good. You do some Reichert every day, number one. You know, you practice a little bit. You open your sound, your vibrato. You make your flute warmer, and then you start working what you need to work.
That's true. Okay, thank you for answering the questions from our audience. And now for the final segment.
Now comes the fire questions. So, yes, it's very short questions. And the first question is, which country is your favorite?
I was at all prepared. Maybe Spain.
Spain. Okay, that's a good choice. I think Paco agrees.
I think Spain because it's sweet. I don't know how to say. And people seems to me to be good people. I know very well. Huh? It's a country I know very well. I don't live there, but yeah, I would say Spain.
Nice.
What is your motto for life?
I don't know if it's a motto, but I don't care about the past. I don't care about the future.
Okay.
That's
For me, it exists only today.
I think that's a very nice motto. And the last fire question, that is a question we ask all of our guests, and that is, what soundtrack would you choose for your life?
Soundtrack. I mean, like one piece.
Yes.
it can be a piece, it can be a whole playlist.
I would take the Schubert Winterreise.
Okay, very nice.
Very, very good. All right. Okay. This then rounds up our episode with Mario Caroli. Thank you so much for talking to us and giving us an insight into your artistic life. It was a pleasure to have you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank
so
you. It
much.
was a pleasure to me. Thanks to having me, and I wish you all the best for your life.